Hey everybody, this is Andrew on the Team BLR channel. I'm here to profile my second place Columbus Regional Memento deck. It was a pretty big event, somewhere over 300 people, and we ended up second place. I think top 3 were all X1, and I lost the guy got first. So it was a pretty good event, pretty good turnout. Just before we get into the profile, a couple shoutouts. Shoutouts to Team BLR for the profile. Shoutouts to all my Yu-Gi-Oh people in Toronto and as well in Newfoundland, and also shoutouts to my girlfriend. Couple disclaimers here before we get to the profile. So this is a pure Memento list, so there's no Fiendsmith here. I still think the Fiendsmith cards are good in this deck. Like, I have them, I've tried it, but I didn't use them for this profile or for this deck. Since this is just pure, I feel like it's a lot of added bricks to the deck. It can be, it takes a lot of space, but I still think it's good. Like, I played the mirror, but that other person I was playing against was on Fiendsmith, and it did seem good, especially in the mirror, just to have that extra option. So you could do either, I think. As well, this main deck that I have, extra and side are different, but this main deck is taken, I think, card for card. From Eva Lee's on Twitter, so I'll shout her out. She has a lot of different slideshows, resources, and that sort of thing, combo guides for Memento. So if you want to look further into that, you can check her Twitter. Okay, so we'll get into the profile. So starting, I won't go too in depth on a lot of these, but these are going to be the starters. So Darkblade is the best starter. Anguish is what you go into, and Tatsu is the horse that everyone should hit in this deck. It's like the one of the main combo starters, and then like a Foolish Burials for 3. So you're trying to resolve all these cards. You want to see these in every hand. These are your starters. You never play less than 3, unless you're on Fiendsmith. You can cut a bit on Anguish, but usually in the pure version, it's 3 of each. For the one-ups, this is extremely standard as well. Just playing one of each of these. This card and this card really suck to draw. Like, these, you never want to see these in your hand. Pretty much every brick you have has one or both of these cards in it. Command Creation kind of counts, but like, it's the point of the deck, so kind of have to. Goblin is sort of a starter, sort of in the loosest term as possible. Mace is not a starter on its own, but it can be if you have another Memento, and Sleepy is in a similar boat. Sleepy carries this deck a lot of the time. Sleepy is really strong, as well as Gaddock. You just gotta watch out for this, the fact that it's a dark. Trying to use Gaddock when you have no monsters on board to avoid Bystials is a big step right now, especially in the metagame where everyone's playing Bystials for Yubel, these sort of decks. So I think it's pretty crucial to try and play around it. As well, Sleepy is very, very important for doing plays in your opponent's turn, like going into Twin Dragon in your opponent's turn, that sort of thing, which we'll get into. So I think you always play one of each of those. Next up is the best cards in the deck. If I was allowed, I would play 5 of Bone Party Infusion. I've said this to many people who have asked, but this deck, when you see Bone Party Infusion, or one of the two, versus when you don't, are completely different decks. Like, you need to see these cards. Like, if you see these cards, your hand is crazy, with like any starter. If you don't, it gets a little shaky. It's like your Rescue Ace Emergency, and this is your Broken Fusion spell. Setting up, using all effects of this card, is super strong on one turn, but you kind of have to play Mictlan. It's a good card, it's just drawing it sucks. That's another break in this deck, which is a little unfortunate, but its power with the new fusion monster is, you gotta play it. This gets helped a lot with the new Goblin Biker spell, Quick Play, that's coming out in Rhoda. Consistency cards, this just gets you to your extra copies, your starter. Like, if you go 1 for 1 into Goblin, or you go Rhoda for Darkblade. There was a hand at the tournament where I opened three Darkblade and Rhoda, and I was like, well, I can't really search anything. I lost that game. I wish I could play 3 Prosperity, but here we are. I'll sacrifice that, so Tempai also has to play 1. So for hand traps, so I only actually played 6. I played the best 6 I could play. I didn't feel like I needed to go index too hard into it, because the other non-engine I was playing, I was taking kind of a half and half approach, where I kind of liked it. So we did 6 hand traps, and it was 9 kind of breakers. So Droplet is crazy. Droplet is like, every time I saw it, I was happy. This card's nuts. Eclipse was really strong as well. So Eclipse kind of comes up in this deck when you're breaking boards, and also in specific situations can be defensive. Like if if your only play is Anguish, your normal Anguish, and they like impermanent, there's a world where you Eclipse, search Tatsu, summon Tatsu, and then you keep playing. But there's like, the thing about the Memento cards is a lot of the destruction effects, they have to destroy Memento, so if they're face down, it's like, it doesn't really work. There was a play during the tournament where I was playing into a board, and I had Fusion in hand, and I had put 2 Mementos on board, he negated both, and then I ended up eclipsing the board. The rest of this board, on the like Unchained Solar Rage, when he was trying to do it on my last play, eclipse the board, activate Fusion, and then I could just keep going, because I could fuse the face down monsters. So it was pretty good for that. And Talons was, I got into the solid like once or twice, but it was strong as solid. I don't think I drew or activated Called By the whole tournament, so it could have been anything. So that's the main deck, 40 cards. I don't think I played more. In the pure, you gotta see Bone Party and Fusion, so maximize your odds. For the extra deck, these are the fusions. So this card is, just Foolish Burial for 3, and this is Search 2. So it's and Reborn. So like these cards are pretty crazy. You want to go through every effect of these every turn if you can. I've seen people play 2 Twin Dragon. I never wanted a second one. I would probably play 3 Creation King before I play 2 Twin Dragon. There was actually once or twice where I wish I had 3 of this card. But you always recycle this card, like with either Summoning Combined Creation, or using Memento Fusion for this. So it usually goes back. Guardian Chimera was great. It's kind of that last interaction, because you'd rather not, because sometimes it negs you a bit. If you don't, and maybe it destroys your follow-up a little bit, depending on how much they break your board. But getting either Pup 1 or Pup 2 is always pretty strong. It's like that last bit, they're going into Tempai, and they just have that last monster, and you clear it with this, and you win the game. So I think you pretty much always play this card too. I've seen other fusions, like the Predaplant, it's like, where they need to, I don't think you need to play it. But there is space if you want to. This deck, there's only a few. I'll go into the next. These are the only cards you really need. Chaos Angel is great. Chaos Angel came up a bunch of times. You can make it with a few different options here. Trihorn and Gaddock, they add up to Chaos Angel, and also your Anguish and Twin Dragon. So these are how you get Chaos Angel. If you are against a deck that you know can't out Chaos Angel, you can just like make your board to use these 2 monsters, put Chaos Angel in defense, and say go. And if they can't out it, they can't out it. Like that's how it works. But usually the most likely way you'll end up is with these 2 on board. You just make it to out something. It's pretty strong. So I would always play this card. Next up, the Link monsters. We'll first start with the Link monsters I actually used, and all the ones I didn't. Anima SP, I did this a bunch. Like, this is time I got Druid's Worm, so you can just Anima SP out it, no problem. I'm ending on SP pretty much every board anyways, just to play around Nib. Because, like, the usual end board with this deck, I'll go into it real quick, is Mictolon, one of these 2, Mind Creation, and Trihorn. This is my goal. Every single game, this is what I want to try and end on. Usually with something engraved. Doesn't really matter what it is. Because you can set up like Bone Party into Anguish at Sleepy or at Maze, usually Sleepy. And then you pop the Anguish and 2 cards. This plays around Nib because you have SP, you can either keep these 2 or keep these 2. All those sort of things. So there's just a lot of really good interactions to make SP and then summon this. So yeah, we're always playing SP. I'd consider 2 SP. I probably should play 2 SP based on how much I use the rest as extra. But yeah, those are pretty straightforward. This card was really good for me. It's just you can make it with Gaddock and Goblin, but just the main problem is you need to learn the lines, and like the lines for making this, it's a lot of the time you're inting to Nib. So you really gotta have Soul Read. You gotta be a little risky if you're gonna make this. I like to make it a few times. There was one hand I had, it was the Absolute Stones, didn't get interrupted. I actually ended on this SP and the Command Creation in both. So it was like just this, and with Mace in hand. So just like getting rid of board breakers, like playing it evenly, that sort of thing. You can use this card with Mace in your hand, and then you can like Mictolon, summon Gaddock back Mace, and Mace change your heart for later. So it's just one of those kind of unfair end board pieces if you can get to it. The last monster in my extra deck that I summoned was IP. I made this once, against Tempai, I think is when I might have gotten shifted. I forget. I put 3 bodies on board, made SP, and that was it. that was my interaction. You don't need to play it, but I think it's fine. You got the space. You might as well. Sometimes it comes up. And of all of these, I did not make. I would play them again. Like, I'll just go through the theory for each. I mean, Donner is just to remove bodies. Like, I'm playing Nib. So, like, if I nib someone, I go Angwitch, they negate Angwitch, and I have Horse in hand. I'm like, okay, well, now I need to link these off for Donner. Donner send to deal with a monster, and then Special Force, because I need to have only mementos on field or no cards. So, I think I would keep this in. Phoenix, I never made it, but just removing back row seems good. Dark, I could see this one. Like, this could come up in another world, but it never came up for me. And it's just for the Selene access line, right? This, I never had trouble like killing. Like, this deck can kill pretty easy a lot of the time. And Unicorn was just to out things without destroying, because this deck does destroy a lot. So if you're against something like Fire King Yubel, you need to shuffle, or you need to like banish, that sort of thing. Chaos Angel and Unicorn are your friends. Yeah, but like as you can see, there is room for Fiendsmith in here if you want it. Like a lot of cards I didn't summon, so the extra space is not that tight. So next we'll go into the side deck. So the best 3 cards in my side deck, Berelia, this card overperformed, but there were like some games against Yubel where I would drop this and draw phase, and they would basically play their turn, and the only summon they did from hand was pretty much the normal summon, so DBB or Lotus, right? So you get 1 draw, so you go upstairs, which is like, that's fine, whatever. We'll take the draw. If they're going to play the awkward, but they still end on most of the board, so it doesn't feel like it did that much. There was like a game against Ritual Beast where this was very strong. There was some other matchups where I saw it where it was good. Like you just could play against things like Tampai that you hope you draw on something else. But yeah, so this, if you think they're going to make you go first, or make themselves go first. But yeah, usually this card is like Yubel, Snake Eye Fire King, these sort of decks that we're going to summon with. But yeah, this was very good. Next up, Nibiru. I chose a side Nibiru. I'm so scared of Tempo with this deck. Like, as you probably know, like, this deck folds to Shifter, like completely folds to Shifter a lot of the time. So having being this Tempo matchup is why I didn't main the Nib, because I wanted to have like cards in my main deck that dealt with Tempai, like Eclipse, where you could like Eclipse their summons and then go next turn and then try and keep playing, like stall through a Shifter. So I put Nib to the side. Nib was for anything that wasn't like Yubel, Tempai, so like Ritual Beast, Snake Eye Fire King with other hand traps, that sort of thing. I did have a game against Snake Eye Fire King where I drew 3 of these and lost, but I still think it's good. So yeah, I think in the side it was in a good place. Next up, Cosmics. Never activated this card. Sided in against Fire King, but I got Talons on my hand, so. But yeah, it's good against if you get matched like Runic, or you get matched into like Fire King, Snake Eye, these sort of decks where this removal is important. So I would keep playing this card, just good to have. Next is a little bit spicier, not really. It's just the going first package. So we'll go through the generic ones first. So Triple Judgment, this card was great. Every time I saw it, I won the game. Usually, like, you have so much interaction, unless they have like an unfair board breaker, like unfair, I mean, I'm setting up a massive board, but like unless they have something like Evenly, they might have Storm, like 2 Rikekis, like a Rikeki Storm, something like that, where you can just hit the one that's most important or hurts you the most, or you just hit their normal. It's never dead going first, so it's really good, I think. So I sided this in most of the time I went first. And then Tikbu Anti-Spell. So this does not matter with my deck. So there's a world where you main it, but it's like you go against Yubel, go against Tempai, so you probably could. But every time I drew this card, I won. It was like, I think I drew twice, but it's great. Anti-Spell, never drew, but I sided in at the same time just to deal with like a lot of the power spells that decks are playing with Tempai. And the last card, which is a little controversial, is Cranium Burst. So there's a lot of talk around this card, whether to play it in the main, which a lot of people do, whether to play it in the side, whether to play it at all, whether to play Fracture Dance, like with Other Trap. There's a lot. So the reason I didn't play it in the main is this card is the only situation this card is good is if you get to the big guy. You get to command creation, and you have the ability to search this. So basically, it requires you to do pretty much full combo. Like you can set this up through a hand trap, like that's fine, but pretty much you have to get a full combo. And if you do, the reward of this card gives you is you win the game. Like unless they have something really unfair, say they have combined creation with like caught with your board and cranium burst, it's just 5 negates in one trap card. Like it's pretty strong. But the problem is this card doesn't help you get to your end board, it only makes it stronger. And your end board is so strong already. Like the board that I showed with like SP and Trihorn, like that one is already a lot of times way more than me. I don't know if my board was ever broken when I set that up. Like it's if pretty much most decks cannot do anything against that board, so you don't really need this card. In some matchups, I would set it going first because like if you make a half board, but part of that half board is this card, like this is the one spell trap you have, that might be enough. But still, I don't think, and the chance for that brick going second too, I already have enough bricks in my deck. So I'd put it aside. I did side win a lot of time when I was going first, and I only really had one game the whole tournament where this card was activated and this card negated things. Otherwise, I never got to it, or it didn't matter. So yeah, that was sad. So just for ending thoughts here, I think this deck is pretty strong. I think coming up into the new format with Rhoda, when it gets the new cards like the Goblin Biker Quick Play and the new Memento monster, it's a lot better. Pretty excited to see where the deck goes. And yeah, thank you for listening to the profile.